Malign Portents. A Bountiful Wager. A norfly droned lazily through the garden of Nurgle. Spores drifted around it on the miasmal airs. Moan willows sighed, and rust grass creaked below as the fly buzzed along. Its simple mind filled with thoughts of filth, food, and where it might find the two combined. The norfly settled for a moment upon a stone arch that rose from a shallow lake of bubbling foulness. It ruffled its wings, humming shrilly and tonelessly as it added its own generous offering to the noxious waters. Emerald light flared, causing the fly to squeak in surprise as the arch filled with flickering energies. A fleshy mound spilled from the portal, something large and slug-like, with a slime-slick shell on its back. A gnarled claw reached out and closed around the norfly as it tried to take flight. It gave a last squeal of alarm before it was tossed into the demon's stinking maw. The norfly popped like a zit in Horticulus's mouth, and he pulled a sour face. "Bloomin' empty, just my luck," he muttered. Mulch squelched down the fetid lake, emitting a sigh of relief as the gelid filth washed over him. The snail beast swiveled one eye stalk and shot Horticulus a questioning look. "Well, I dunno, do I?" said the plague demon irritably. "The dead have their place in the cycle, that's well and good. But if they're forgetting where that place is..." Mulch blew out a heavy sign of concern, bubbles of filthy lake water frothing around his mouth. "I know, lad. Not good at all," said Horticulus. "That's the sort of thing that'll get grandfather all in a lather boil." Mulch submerged his head further until only his eye stalks protruded from above the sludge. He burbled morosely. "Truth, that's what we need, and time to make sense of it," said Horticulus. He stuck two gnarled fingers in the corners of his mouth and whistled messily. His plague flies swarmed in answer, gathering him in a thick carpet, their legs and wings tickling Horticulus's leathery flesh. "All right, you lot, time to earn your keep," said the demon. "I haven't been around this long without getting a nose for when something don't stink right. After all that business outside Zentilis, I smell his ashes. Get out into the realms and get searching. I don't care how or where, just fly as far as you can, then come back and tell me what you've seen. Signs, omens, walking cadavers, whatever it is, I just want to know about it. Right?" His flies gave a resounding buzz, thrumming their wings in answer. They burst from his body like a cloud and shot away in all directions, making for the corrupted realm gates that dotted Nurgle's garden. The Grand Cultivator nodded to himself, then gave Mulch a firm kick. "All right, sluggard, enough marinating. It'll be a span before them flies start coming back, and in the meantime you can just bet the plague bearers won't have paired the rot blossoms right. Come on, lad, cultivating to be done." Mulch gave a long, suffering sigh before hauling himself through the slime, with Horticulus perched thoughtfully on his back. Time had always passed strangely for Horticulus. If he noticed its passage at all, wheeling around him in fluid cycles one moment and flowing turgid as a clotted river the next. All the same, the Grand Cultivator was surprised by how soon the first of his flies returned. Barely had he found the time to berate his assistant gardeners, plough the lower fester fields, and attend to the wither blooms before the insects started flittering back. Most bore a fresh message of alarm, some strange sight or unnatural encounter having left the demonic insects buzzing with panic. Some of Horticulus's little familiars returned with legs brittle and thoraxes greying with patches of ashen sterility. Some did not come back at all. As each fresh tale was told to him, Horticulus's concern deepened. "Ghasts and haunts, blackhounds and wailing bogies," he muttered to Mulch after an especially vivid account from the Jade Kingdom of Verdia. "Dark omens and darker visions. There's a bad business coming, you mark my words. I think it's time I had a word with the Rainfather." Mulch belched in agreement and snapped lazily at the giggling nurgling that dangled from a pole before his face. The mite swung tantalizingly out of reach as it released a string of flatulence and poked out its tongue. Grunting with annoyance, Mulch set off through the garden towards the pestilent pastures, the last known location of the great mighty unclean one, known as Rotigus. Horticulus heard the sounds of battle long before he saw Rhoticus himself. Clashes, screams, and the wet rush of jetting foulness echoed from between the trees of a withered copse as Mulch dragged himself between. Emerging from the eaves of that noisome wood, Horticulus tapped Mulch's snout, pulling his steed up short atop a ridge of bone that overlooked the pestilent pastures. Sitting back and chewing on a splinter of bone, Horticulus watched Rhoticus work with professional appreciation. Down amongst the muck of the pastures, the ground had been heaved open by great shards of blue crystal that danced with vari-coloured flames. Horticulus recognized a spur of the crystal labyrinth, the ever-twisting realm of Zench that sometimes intruded upon Nurgle's bountiful domain. From within that strange moor had spilled a tide of Zazetian demons, no doubt intent on claiming the plague god's pastures for their master's realm. The heaps of rotting ectoplasm and writhing fungus-covered flesh strewn about the battlefield showed that Rhoticus had other ideas. As Horticulus watched, the cowled Great Unclean One led his plague-bearers in a last resounding charge against the battered remains of the invading host. Rhoticus swatted kaleidoscopic demons aside with swings of his twisted stave. He crushed them under his huge bulk and vomited streams of brackish filth from the maw in his gut, drowning Zench's servants and extinguishing their unnatural fires. At last, the few surviving horrors turned and capered for the mouth of their tunnel. Rhoticus raised his staff and bellowed words that caused the demons to convulse with the raw power of unstoppable decay. One by one they were torn apart by the fungal growths that billowed from within their flesh, until at last a new copse of nodding mushrooms the height of trees stood before the entrance to the crystal labyrinth. Satisfied that the show was over, Horticulus urged Mulch forward. Rhoticus saw him coming, the beetle-black eyes that stared from beneath his rotting cowl marking the Grand Cultivator's approach. Leaving his demonic foot soldiers to smother the crystal shards in corpse compost, Rhoticus lumbered over to meet Horticulus halfway. The Great Unclean One settled on his haunches, looming over Horticulus like a mountain of fly-blown flesh.
Horticulus,
he said, nodding. Rhoticus's deep voice was a bubbling liquid horror, the sort of sound a mudslide might make if it could speak. The Great Unclean One sounded as though he was constantly striving to choke back mouthfuls of vomit, with black slop spilling from his lips in noisome splatters. Horticulus nodded in turn, chewing nonchalantly on his bone splinter. "Rainfather," he said, "fine gamekeeping there. Can't have the changes vermin springing up all over the place."
Oh, what do you want, Slimax?
asked Rhoticus.
This business has taken up too much of my time, Ility. There's ways to wander, and gifts to be given. Always more gifts.
"Where your wanderings take you next?" asked Horticulus.
Not that it concerns you,
replied Rhoticus.
Why? Would you like to wander with me, little cultivator?
"Mayhap," nodded Horticulus, "but nowhere as little important as that." Rhoticus's belly-maw heaved and spluttered with sloshing laughter, but his true expression congealed into a heavy frown. Mucus crawled in trails down his flabby chins.
The world is somehow unimportant to it. Horticulus Slimax is it? He asked. Too old and wise for grandfather's war, as you first spot.
"War life's a single enterprise, and one that grandfather's interests have branched out from," said Horticulus. "Why you think he sent me a sowing? All the realms need to feel his generosity, not just one. Leave the fixed obsessions to the Skull Lord, is what he says now, and I agree." Rhoticus shifted wetly. He rumbled deep in his chest.
You know something, don't you? Is it?
"I've seen things, heard 'em on flies' wings, smelt their charnel stink," said Horticulus. "There's something bad coming, Rainfather. The dead are on the rise, and if I'm right, the cycle's under threat."
If you are right,
echoed Rhoticus.
When's it? Winds blow. Where do you plan to ride that disreputable steed of yours in? Search of answers.
"Where else?" asked Horticulus. "Shyish, and I don't look to go alone. Let the other fly-eyed fools scurry through Ariel's pretty fields." If you and I lead the Talibans to the lands of the dead, we will put an end to whatever infected mischief's brewing up. Think how glopsome glad grandfather will be.
A reward shared is a reward halved,
said Rotigus. Ha! Barked the Grand Cultivator. All right, says you. Let's make a wager then. Surely even then the Barras of Shaiish can't stay long dead with your powers aplenty to coax their generosity.
He who first discovers the source of your bellyaching and puts pay to it is declared the winner,
said Rotigus, nodding his boulder-like head. Aye, said Horticulus.
None of your fears prove baseless, little cultivator. My time is wasted,
asked Rotigus, his voice menacing. They shan't, and it won't, said Horticulus, his eyes locked steadily with Roticus's black orbs. Eventually, the Great Unclean One gave another rumble deep in his chest.
Scrambled, milkless,
he bellowed, catching the attention of his subservient poxbringers.
Gather the Talibans. We make for the Crack and Bone Realm Gate. The deluge has business in the lands of the dead.
Horticulus gestured to his surviving flies, sending them winging away to gather his own followers. He smiled a sly smile to himself and sucked the last marrow from his old chewing bore. 2 of Nurgle's mightiest demons, and all those who would follow them into battle, amounted to a serious force indeed. Whatever was stirring in the realm of death, he almost felt sorry for it.